Good morning, Bande Matram. Welcome all of you. So we are going to have a brief discussion on spiritual experience. As we know, spiritual experience is a must. So for the progress and development, this type of experience, of course, in different formats, different names, different forms it comes. But actually, it is a minimum need, basic need. It is required. Mostly, we feel that spiritual experiences are required in the sadhana process of sadhana. Here we are having some few lines we'll quote from Sri Aurobindo initially, then we'll go for the mother has answered two questions. So briefly we'll go for that in a step-by-step procedure. So Sri Aurobindo quotes, there can be no sadhana without realization and experiences. That's what already I have quoted. There shall be no sadhana. No sadhana. Progress is totally different. It comes after later. So there can be no sadhana without realization and experiences. In yoga, the experience itself is a promise and a foretaste. So just imagine what is the real experience, the real importance of this experience that we are experiencing in the yogic life, yogic path. So in yoga, the experience itself is a promise and a foretaste. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes, an inch of experience goes further than a yard of logic. So don't rely much on the words. You try to come out of words. Logic, it is a mental phenomenon. Yard of logic is inferior to the inch of experience. So have to gain experience as it is possible, because these are most essential conditions for the progress in sadhana. In already no sadhana without realization and experience. So even if it is you are gaining an inch of experience, that is far goes further than a yard of logic. And the letters here in the quotes, observe what you experience and know. Observe, but that must be minute observation. Observe what you experience and know that it has its value and indispensable at a stage. It has its value, it is indispensable at a stage. Observe what you experience and know it has its value, but don't take the experience as the final knowledge, because nothing, there is no final limit. You have to cross over, you have to go, because it has got no does not take the experience as the final knowledge. Every day you will be inching forwards, you will be moving ahead, because there is no end at all. Again, we'll have two questions before us. We will try to analyze in brief. One question is put, you speak of spiritual experience. One question is there, what is the experience and how can one have it? What is that spiritual experience and how one can have it? That is the question that is been put to mother, and mother of course explains, it is something which puts you in contact with a consciousness higher than one you usually have. Normally, of course, it is told about the spiritual person, people who are pursuing the path. So they have got their own consciousness. Actually, of course, they have it. They have gone, they have trodden, they have touched some limit, they are on the way. They, of course, they have acquired some consciousness, but so far the spiritual consciousness is concerned, spiritual consciousness, spiritual experience is concerned, something which puts you in contact with the consciousness higher than one has got usually have. So it will tag you with something that is higher than what you have acquired. You have a certain feeling about yourself. Naturally, you have certain feeling about yourself. You are not even aware of it. You have that feeling, but you are not that much aware. So it is for you, your ordinary condition. You understand, you feel it is there, you have experience, you have gone to some extent, you are little bit aware of it, not aware of it, even if you have felt, not aware what really they are. Well, If suddenly you become conscious within something very different and much higher, sometimes by any particular point of time, you will be aware of that something, that consciousness, aware to become conscious within something very different and much higher. If that feeling is coming, whatever it may be, this will be a spiritual experience, whatever it may be, but it is a spiritual experience. It is something higher, something different, beyond your feelings, but you feel. You may formulate it with mental idea. This is spiritual experience, and this experience what you feel, that is different, that is much higher, what is really called spiritual experience, that even if you are going to formulate it in a formulate it with a mental idea, you may not formulate it because it can't come within the strengths of mind, to within the bounds of mind. You may explain it to yourself, you may not. It is also possible. You may explain, you may not. And it may last, it may not. That is also possible. You may explain to yourself, may not. It may last, it may not. It may be, of course, instantaneous, possible. So instantaneous. You may understand, you may not understand. The thing is that you may explain to yourself, it may not. It may last, it may not last. It may be, of course, instantaneous. But when there is this essential difference, this difference, actually what you feel in yourself, in the consciousness, and when naturally the quality comes is vary, it varies from step to step, from person to person. The quality varies much higher, clearer, purer than what usually you have one has. Normally, with what consciousness somebody is having, somebody states, this consciousness naturally in quality it varies. You can find much higher, clearer, pure than what one has. Then one can call the spiritual experience, this as a spiritual experience, because normally what you possess, what you really think, that experience, you that feeling you have, it is much higher, clearer and purer. So here we can find, one has to call it spiritual experience. This means that there are thousands of different things, thousands of different things which can be called spiritual experience. So this is a feeling, it touches your consciousness with a higher consciousness, you can feel it. Sometimes it lasts or may not last, you can find, or you can explain yourself, it may not explain, and it is of course instantaneous, but this is naturally the quality is varies, from state to state. It is much higher, clearer and purer than what really one has. It is in another way known as the spiritual experience. So thousands of other course, thousands of different things which really clarifies, and termed as the spiritual experience. Again, very another question is put to mother. Should we aspire to have spiritual experience? Naturally, naturally, because without it nothing can be done, and without aspiration it can't come. So there must be aspiration for it. Anyway, mother quotes how, mother explains. Will read out the mother's explanation. I think it is wiser to aspire to make progress. It is very technical answer, tactical answer by mother. Yes, I think it is wiser to aspire to make progress. Wiser to aspire to make progress, or to be more conscious, or to be better, and to be better, do better than aspire for spiritual experience. Just imagine, that is a big question, big line here. Wiser to aspire to make progress. Again, wiser to aspire to make progress. It may be more conscious, to be more conscious, to be more better, to do much better, aspire for spiritual experience than to aspire for spiritual experience. That is a big thing, it has been told. So, initial objective aim will be to aspire for progress. So, because that might open the door more or less imaginary and falsified experiences. If you aspire for the spiritual progress, then that will open the door more clearly, open the door to more or less imaginary and falsified experiences or movements to the vital which take the appearance of higher things. So what? Because that might open the doors to more and more less imaginary and falsified experiences. If you entirely concentrated upon experiences, that is likely to take you more or less to the imaginary and falsified experiences, to movements of the vital, which take on the experience of higher things. So one may what may be deceive oneself with having the aspiration for experience. There is a chance of deceiving, because whatever you experience, aspire for experience, there will be some imaginary and falsified experience which likely leading you, which are to the deception. One may deceive oneself by having an aspiration for the experiences. In fact, the experience must come spontaneously. That's what the term, that is the condition. The experience must come spontaneously as the result of inner progress and not for itself or in itself. It is these experiences, these are necessary. No sadhana without experience, that has been clarified clearly, boldly by Sri Aurobindo. But thing is that you aspire for sadhana and progress, so simultaneously you can find spontaneously these experiences are coming, and as a result of this inner progress, but not in itself or in itself, for itself or in itself. So what we have to do really, that is the topic, that must be understood clearly. Mother course, you come out of your words, don't stay much in words, you have to practice it. The main trouble, mother course, in you to think with words, but these words are empty of meaning. Most of the times we stay inside the words, but they are empty all these are empty of meaning. Most of the time they are mere words only, nothing else, mere words. You talk of the divine, you talk of the supreme, you talk of yoga. You may say many things, but does all that respond to in your head to something concrete? We speech, that is what already we have already explained. No words act. So you think of you talk of the divine, you talk of the supreme, you talk of the yoga or something much higher. Do you think these are responding in your head something concrete? To your thought, you are feeling a clear idea or an experience. Is it coming? Not nothing like this. Or they simply they are words. So what we have to do? You talk up, you think up, you daydream. That happens. But thing is that, do you file any concrete experience or concrete progress as something has been concretized? So what we have to do? Mother explains. You must see the thing, experience behind words. Thing and the experience behind the words. Here we speak of yoga, but elsewhere one would speak differently. One would say, "I am seeking my reason desire," and so on. So those who have the religious bent will say, I want to find the divine presence. I want to find the divine presence. There are 50 ways of saying the thing, but it is the thing which is important. I think many ways you speak, you express, but thing is that it is very clear. I want to find the divine presence. You must feel in your word, in your heart, everywhere. That murmur, that whisper, that echo is there. I must be concrete, living, otherwise you can't advance. It must be concrete, it must be living, otherwise very difficult to progress. You can't advance unless otherwise. You must come out of the words and get into action. No words act. So you must come out of words and get into action, get into the experience and get into life. That is the mantra. Normally, this mantra is chanted most of the time, and the great chanting from from the mother is that you must come out of words and get into action, get into experience, get into life. So these are the great advice from the mother. Anyway, we will conclude with Sri Aurobindo on experience. Sri Aurobindo quotes, experience is a word that covers almost all the happenings in yoga. That covers almost all the happenings in yoga only when something gets settled. Only when something gets settled, then it is no longer an experience but part of the siddhi. So experience getting after getting settled, being become a part of siddhi. Example: peace when it comes and goes in as experience. When it is settled and goes no more, this is siddhi. Very interesting. The peace comes and goes. When it settles in you, never moves back, goes anymore, that is Siddhi. Realization is different, Sri Aurobindo course. It is different. Experience, this is experience. Sri Aurobindo gave example of peace. When permanently settled, it is Siddhi, experience comes and goes. Realization is different. It is when something for which you are aspiring, something for which you are aspiring becomes real in you. You have the idea of the divine in all, but it is only the idea, a belief. When you feel or see the divine in all, that becomes realization. Great thing. Really, it has been explained. Experience, I'll try to differentiate as differentiated by Sri Aurobindo. Something experience is a word, we find some experience, unless otherwise it is settled, it is not a siddhi. Once it is settled, it is a part of the siddhi. Like this, realization is totally different. When something which you are aspiring becomes real in you, you have the idea of the divine in all, but it is only an idea, you know, divine in all, that is the idea, but only when you feel or see, not the theoretical concept. When only when you feel and see the divine in all, that becomes a realization. So that is a great difference you have seen, and this is seen. Really, these are the no sadhana without realization. You will find the experience, but aspire for progress. Thank you.